My name is David. I'm an artist. I'm a multidisciplined artist. I'm a writer. I'm a filmmaker, and a painter and a photographer. And the way I came in contact with Mind Unwind was when I was living in Seattle and I was doing some community development around animal compassion, and I had a nonprofit. And I saw an excellent article about Mind Unwind forming this organization in this meeting place. And it was in perfectly in line with what I was trying to do at the time, which was, meet locals, meet people that were doing creative things in the community. And it just brought together people from different segments of the community that were open to um, anything that was creative and or was for the betterment of people and animals. My focus is animals and the human animal connection. And it was just the right place at the right time.
I think you did an exhibit or two there, and then you also held classes there, which I feel like one of your classes totally turned us upside down when you brought the chickens in.
Yes, yes. I got a small grant to do something about veganism and vegan awareness, and we did an art class. And when we did that, always wanted to reach out to the younger generation, younger kids, to teach them that food comes from all different places. It doesn't necessarily have to come from an animal. And so, anyway, we brought in fake chicken nuggets and a whole buffet of food. And then on top of that, we brought in these four beautiful rescued chickens. I mean, if you've never looked at a chicken close up, they're not black, they're not gray or brown. They're actually these rainbows of color. And I remember this one chicken had like purples and blues and deep reds. And so anyway, we asked the kids to do painted portraits of these chickens, and to really look closely and see that they're all individuals, and also like the intricacies of every little feather and every little texture on their bodies. And then we said, you're this is what you actually eat, when you're eating chicken. It's not something on the plate. And for a young mind, and we weren't being over the top, we weren't being brutal at all, we were just kind of saying, try to reconsider what you're consuming, and the parents were
Yeah.
there, they were fine with it. But it was kind of mind-boggling, I think, for the kids and the parents and for anybody else that was witness to
I
it.
know. The kids lit up. I
They did.
remember because I would kind of come and go sometimes when you were hosting classes because it was a busy time in my life. We had a lot
Mhm,
of activities going on, and we
mhm.
were teaching in schools and doing all this stuff. So I was like carting art supplies here and there, and I remember I came into the gallery to grab something, and I was like, oh, and there's chickens running around, but the kids were so engaged. And
And this was early on,
yeah,
and we were very idealistic, thought, we're going to change the world. And maybe we did in a little way. But these kids were so enraptured because, you know when you are 6, 7, 8, you see a fluffy little animal in front of you, and it's by nature that you are empathetic with that animal, and you are so intrigued. Yeah, the kids were just enamored by these chickens and the fact that they were meant to be eaten, and these people had saved them. They had a story and they had
mhm.
personalities, and the kids immediately, and some of the kids were really young, so they needed a little help. But even those portraits, in their very like naive state, which I mean in a beautiful way, just captured the spirit of these chickens. And it
Yeah.
was just, I still use those as an example of what the organization was called, Art for Animals Sake. And it really encapsulated everything that we were trying to do. We were trying to impart a little compassion for other sentient animals on earth. We were trying to make the connection between what you put into your body and the animals that roam the world, and just in a gentle way kind of probe a little bit and say, maybe you've never considered this, and just a gentle sort of introduction to what could be. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I remember my co-host was like, we were blown away. We were absolutely
Yeah.
blown away with the parents, the kids, and just the reception that we had. It
Yeah.
was fantastic. Yeah.
And I mean, really, that was only one of many, many things that we did together at Mind Unwind. I remember that Jaws event that we did. You put
Yes.
together an awesome Jaws poster. That
Yes.
was super cool. Do you have a favorite synchronicity story about Mind Unwind?
I do because I remember this being like a time in my life when I was renting a place. I didn't really have space for it. And I was also looking for a community of people that, were working to expand people's understanding of what art could be, what community could be. And I just saw an article of you in the West Seattle newspaper, and I was living in West Seattle, and I was like, what is this fantastic place I've never heard about? And you had kind of opened up recently, but it was just one of those things when we met, and I'm throwing out all these crazy ideas, and you're just like, yeah, let's go for it. Or I have an idea how we can make that even better. And then Mind Wine was a place where people connected. And I still have relationships with people that I met through Mind Unwind. And I think Seattle was at a point in time when it was in transition. So a lot of the commercial spaces were becoming kind of what Seattle is more today, where it's more
Hmm.
about revenue making over creativity. It
Hmm.
was just one of those rare places. And not to say that they're not there today, but it was just like that was a ray of sunshine to me to meet like like-minded folks that necessarily didn't agree necessarily with like my mission. I mean, you agreed with my mission, but you weren't necessarily doing it. And
Right.
you
I
were,
wasn't an animal activist like you were.
yeah,
But I embraced everyone's mission. I feel like all the artists that were involved there had their own personal, um, you know, soul mission. Yours
exactly.
is compassion for animals, and mine is being a connector, bringing people together. And
Yep,
so we all kind of fit in like little puzzle pieces in
yep.
this, crazy world that we're always trying to make sense of, I guess. But it
And
was,
it,
I think the people that I connected with at Mind and Wind have literally stayed in my life for all of these last 10 years.
mhm,
And I mean, I can think of all the future projects that we did together. I mean,
mhm,
from going to Mount Shasta to you helped me finish doing an edition of my book about my little
mhm,
bird who poops art. I mean,
yeah,
we helped each other out in so many different ways
mhm,
that
mhm.
and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this episode of Shifting Circles and interviewing everyone, is because it's hard to just tell the story without hearing it from everybody.
So I had my thing, you had your thing, but they did overlap. And I think that that was the beautiful thing, is that people brought projects to your door and you welcomed them. And then just the when two people meet or a group of people meet that have the same energy and have the same level of intensity as far as being driven to make change or create, there's a greater good that comes out of it. And that was one of those melting pots where anytime you walked in and you interacted, and you might not even understood because there was some strange things going on or strange installations or whatever,
Yeah.
it was something that was exciting because you wanted to support and you also just felt the energy emanating. And it's like certain times in my life, like you meet people that you feel like the two of you come together, but it's like this bigger mass of energy surrounding you. And it's just like, and it happened a lot at Mind and Wine where you just
Mhm.
met people that you felt safe and you felt like they added to your project, your mission, whatever it was. It didn't
Yeah.
matter what it was. It was just that people were excited for you and then also willing to help out. And it was people from all walks of life, from all different places. And I think the classes that you had were so varied and so
Mhm.
different and also all different age groups.
Mhm.
And it's just the willingness to have differences of of backgrounds and mindsets, but be willing to support and to meet their energy. And then that energy just like quadruples.
A lot of times we make art to process emotions, but then there's certain artists who are processing their emotions but also doing it for a cause. And
Hmm.
I believe that those are the ones that are the change agents.
Hmm.
And that's, I feel like that's who I've stayed connected with, are the change agents, the
Yep.
people, and now we're spread out all over the world. It's fun to see that we're just spreading, that everyone's still doing their work.
Hmm.
There hasn't been anyone that I've talked to that has said, "Oh no, I'm not an artist anymore." Like
Yeah.
that hasn't happened. So I think that, at some level we're all doing soul work.
Right.
We feel like we're on a mission. At least that's how
Mhm.
I feel.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why we recognize each other in the
Hmm.
world on some deeper level. It's just like on a common day, you don't meet, you don't run into people that have that certain essence or spirit or energy that meets your own, or you recognize, and in certain people you recognize. And I think that Mind and Wine was really important because you were constantly inviting people in that had a certain something.
Hmm.
And I actually was challenged because I've been moving a lot, and just us meeting up at Mount Shasta by coincidence, by synchronicity. I mean, I
Yep.
was traveling the country in a van trying to sort of sort things out, and you just
Yeah.
happened to be there on your own vision quest. And it just made sense that we would meet up, and like we had never been apart, and we hung out and then we separated. And like I've only recently said, I can make anywhere I am my own place. Like
Hmm.
it's okay to be almost anywhere in the universe as long as I have this kind of stimulation amongst like-minded individuals or people that just meet that same level of
Hmm.
intensity and energy. It feeds me, and I can be almost anywhere. So that was sort of an epiphany for me to have lately, that at this stage of my life, not necessarily being rooted to a place, but being rooted because of my I still have inspiration, and I still draw inspiration from people around me. And that's like a gift. It's a
It
gift.
is. It's a beautiful thing to be able to feel that way. I know I get pulled to locations, and like Mount Shasta pulled me for, it was a good year that I was trying to figure out, like, I knew I needed to get there. All of these signs were kept coming into my life, and I was like, uh I had some friends that were going to hike to the top, and I thought, oh, I'll go with them, and then there was just drama in the group, and I was like, no, this isn't feeling right. I'm not, this isn't how I'm going. And then, I'm telling people like, I want to go to Mount Shasta, and then my friend down in Tulum, she says, you should go, I know the shaman there, you should meet up with him. And so then, I follow that, and then I randomly am talking to you, and I'm like, oh, I fly into Sacramento, and you were like, what date? And then you were going to visit your friend in Sacramento the day before,
Mhm.
and you picked me up from the airport. And I was just like, how does this happen? You and Zach ended up showing up, and we all had a great time.
Was wonderful. It was sort of like all of a sudden we just all jump on this little train that Krystal has going, and we all get something different out of it. I mean, I still look back on that, and I have things that I still am intrigued by, and made certain connections to different things I hadn't understood about myself. I just think that as long as we're still doing that, and as long as
Mhm.
we still can find that energy in other people, that we can stay inspired and keep that sort of all like feeling that we get when we pursue certain artistic, creative, spiritual endeavors. It's important. It's important, especially in this world where things can be really, really difficult. And it's just so important to the soul to like know that there's other people like us that are seeking and creating. And just on a very humble level, like you feel like you're a small part of like a bigger community.
Tell me about the work you're doing now. Just a little bit about what you're up to.
This period of my life has been about finishing projects that I've been wanting to finish for a long time. So I have so many different projects, but one that I'm most interested in, I just illustrated a children's book, which is blatantly plugged in the background, about this eco-environmentalist called Paul Watson that I'm absolutely so proud to be a small part of a story of this person who started Sea Shepherd and did all these other amazing, environmentally aware works, and still has, stopping the whaling in Iceland and all these other things. But what I'm really excited about is I'm starting a new YouTube channel where I'm going to be talking about animal literature and how animals play a role in literature, and then just analyzing like how a book like Animal Farm is such a reflection on, like, Orwell wrote that way back when, and how it's a reflection of the culture now, and how animals are sort of symbolic throughout history and have different different significance to different people in the world, and it's not necessarily a vegan message, but it's a message of spreading empathy and kindness and understanding throughout the world. And I'm of course all about being kind to the animals, and leaving them alone, just like, they're sentient just like we are. But so I'm excited about that. I'm teaming up with a few local people here in Massachusetts, and we're going to try to do that. And besides that, I'm trying to still write my book about Sasquatch researchers, because it's something that I've been intrigued with since late 1990s. I started a project on interviewing Sasquatch researchers, not necessarily the phenomenon of Sasquatch, but the fact that these people have given up everything to search for this
Mhm.
mystical creature that may or may not exist, but depending on who you talk to make a generalization, in our culture have sort of blocked off our connection to a certain part of nature and certain frequencies that maybe we're missing out. But so it's going to be a study on a lot of those different things, and it's just fascinating because I get excited about it and everybody in interview is so excited about it. So it's fun, it's interesting, and then, like you say, it brings in a lot of questions about our existence and how we exist in this world. So
Mhm.
that's something that I'm dying to get out, which I'm hoping in the next year to really get that project going. So between the sort of podcast slash YouTube channel, and the Sasquatch book, those are two things that I'm really looking forward to pursuing. So hopefully you'll see more soon.
Awesome.
Everything will be illuminated. That door will open. People receive the love that you are. They're just being. And when I share it again, it's healing through being.
Keeps us going. Like,
Yep.
that's the bottom line, is that there's so much to know and so much to discover, and it's the mystery that brings me back. Like, I want to know things, I want to discover things, and I get excited about it, and it's just like the spark of life. It's like
Yep.
we don't know anything. Like, if you're not keeping your open mind and discovering new things, like Mount Shasta was something that I, had no idea about, uh, energy portals and things like that. I kept an open mind. I had some really intense experiences.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
did too. I mean, I feel like I've fully connected to my star family. And that
yeah.
was something that I knew, I felt it, but had never had words for it. And Paul of Venus he's a special human on this planet.
Yeah.
And he really, I mean, he took one look at me and he was like, "You're Pleiadian. I need to take you to Telos." I didn't know what Telos was, and then I come to find out that's where a Palladian ship had landed. And the moment I started walking on that land, like on the ground,
Hmm.
was it did something. There was something there, and I felt it. And then I realized I had been there in a dream. And when I saw like that pink flag that I had seen in my dream, like an actual tangible thing that I saw in my dream, I
Hmm.
was just like, this is so real. This is, I am Palladian. I am from this place. And it
Yeah.
just gave me a lot of I don't know, like inner knowing is
Yeah,
really
it's just a lot of
cool.
these things, like, are just sort of like what was he said, remember what you already know.
Exactly.
And that's like, and that made so much sense to me because we get in our own way and we tend to put roadblocks into like what's logical and what we've grown up to understand, but on a deeper level, we have all of this other stuff to unveil to ourselves. And it's like, yeah, it's so cool. It's so
That's
cool to be
amazing.
able to have people that you trust and love, and you can just go, I'll go on this journey with you. And it just becomes this like intense, beautiful thing. So I think Mind Unwind kind of started this whole journey
Hmm.
where I feel accepted and wanted amongst a certain amount of people where maybe that wouldn't have happened or
In a lot of ways, we were kind of a group of misfits,
Mhm,
because it's outside of a lot of the things we were doing are outside of that conditioning that you're talking about, that
mhm.
like this is what you're supposed to do. And
Yes.
galleries are always white walls, and yes, we started with white walls and they changed, like, and
Mhm.
every single month the gallery was a different place. it's
Yeah.
like it's like we transported and created a new space every month. And that was, in a lot of ways is amazing. It was also exhausting. It was a lot to
Mhm.
take in and to coordinate, but it was 100% worth it. Like
And we were a
every
lot younger then.
Yeah, totally.
We had more energy. Not that we don't now.
I know, but I look back at these pictures and as I'm diving into the production of this, I'm just like, wow, we really did a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we were there for 5 years. We did a decade's worth of work in five
Yeah,
years,
you
if not
did.
more.
Yeah. And then the bar upstairs was a meeting place, another meeting place for people to come
Yep.
together. And yeah, I mean, it was just it was intense and it was a need that I needed at the time. I needed that sort of connection. And it's been great ever since. So yeah. So
Cool. Well,
keep
thank
doing
you,
it.
David. I really appreciate your time, and I always enjoy talking to you and bouncing off ideas. I really look forward to seeing your projects come to fruition, and I'll subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Mhm.
Um,
It's gonna
I'll
be
be
called
number one fan.
it's gonna be called Critter Literature, Crit Lit.
Crit
Um,
lit.
and it's
I love
gonna
it.
be an interesting journey, and I think it's gonna have something for everybody.
You review my little bird who poops art.
Of course I will.
Awesome. Awesome. Here, I'm gonna hit stop.